Hello, today I'm sharing my biggest product fails and disappointments over the past year. I made a promise to you when I first started my channel that I would always help you make better buying decisions. And part of that is sharing not only what works for me, but also what doesn't, which is one of the reasons why I share fails regularly here on my channel. I think it's so important that we as creators share not only what works for us, but also what doesn't, because it could potentially save you some money. I'm not saying these products won't work for you. Some of them you may love. These just really did not work for me. So as I did last year, I'm kicking off my Best in Beauty 2022 series with the Worst in Beauty, which is what these products are. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new, and let's get started with foundations. Now, I have a few foundations that did not work out for me this past year, and I guess I should say that all of these products were either newly launched in 2022 or they were new to me in 2022. That's how I personally structure my end of the year favorites. Well, in this case, my not favorites. Now, I still do have several of these products. I don't know why. I don't know if it was for dupe purposes or what, but still have this one. This is Bobbi Brown Intensive Serum Foundation. This is a $72 foundation, and I was prepared to really like it. This has SPF 40, I do believe. Yeah, SPF 40 and 25 skincare ingredients. And with as much as I love the Skin Long Wear foundation, the one in the tube that I'm still not sure if they're discontinuing, but it's one of my holy grail skin light foundations, I was prepared to love this. This has a thicker consistency and it kind of sat on top of my skin and just wouldn't blend out properly. It clung to every bit of texture I didn't even know I had. I do foundation roundups, foundation reviews regularly, and test foundations in various ways, and I just could not get this to work. And for $72, that's just not what I want. So we're starting out with a pretty expensive fail. This next one is drugstore, and it's kind of polarizing. You either seem to like it or you really don't. It's the e.l.f. Camo Powder Foundation, which I will pop a picture of here on the screen. I don't still have it, and several other products in this video since I don't like them. I just don't have them in my life still. So I do like many powder foundations. I actually am kind of a powder foundation girl. I was really wanting to like this. It's primer infused, buildable from medium to full coverage. It's a very dusty powder foundation, and I prefer a creamier formula. I didn't really like that. It's also supposed to look natural, and it doesn't. You can tell you're wearing makeup. When I don't wear a primer underneath it, which is rare for a powder foundation, just for my shine not to come through, for powder foundations not to break down during the day, I typically wear a primer, but I always test them without. And without a primer, it sinks into my pores badly and it doesn't adhere to parts of my face. It's really bizarre. I've never had another powder foundation look quite this bad right after application. Really weird. I have to wear a primer with this, which is kind of aggravating because sometimes on lazy days, if I'm not going to be out for very long, it's just nice to dust on a powder foundation without a primer. Now, it looks really pretty with a primer, but I have to wear a primer with it, and it still just kind of, breaks down during the day. It's also very yellow toned. That's the other thing. I mean, I'm pretty neutral warm, but this is really yellow toned. I thought I was going to love this, really didn't. There are far too many really nice, effortless powder foundations out there for me to waste my time on this one, so this one was a fail. I believe I'm also in the minority on the Cosis Revealer Skin Improving Foundation. I think a lot of people like this, especially in my demographic, over 40. I'm not a full coverage foundation girl. I had to really work to build this though. It did look really pretty once I said it though, but I could start to feel it during the day as my natural oil started coming through, which I just do not like. I have combination skin. I get oil breakthrough in my T-zone. I'm pretty normal around the perimeter of my face and can get dry as well on the outside of my face. And if I can feel a foundation, it's just bothersome. And then it just started to look really bad. I could start to see some texture that I just really never see. It settled into some lines, specifically my forehead line, which can be a problem with foundations that do this kind of thing, and just started looking really bad. Just just bad. This was one of my worst. We have another high-end foundation fail with the Givenchy Prism Libre Skin Caring Matte Foundation, which I was really excited about. I loved the way this looked after it was applied and how it felt, how it covered, but yet looked like skin, looked really natural. Now that coverage stayed all day. It looked beautiful, but no matter what I did, I got oily with this. I'm telling you, no matter what I did, with a primer, without a primer, with various types of primers, with various types of powders, I just got oily with this, which is so odd since it's a matte foundation. Now, I will say oftentimes if I get oily with foundations, the coverage goes away. That did not happen. So if you're more normal, you might like this. Now, I know I'm giving you summaries of these foundations. The full foundation reviews are in my foundation roundups where I've reviewed each of these foundations thoroughly. I'll have the link to that playlist, those videos where you can see my thorough review if you are interested in these or any other videos where I've showed them on my face, showed my wear tests, things like that. And if you are interested in seeing thorough foundation reviews, foundation wear tests for women over 40, I do them regularly, so be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss those. Last foundation before moving on to other products, concealers and whatnot. I know I'm leaving out products that should have been in this video. It's inevitable. It's so hard to go through all of our products for the entire year and summarize them in one video. It would be an oversight if I left something out, but these are the ones that are standing out to me at this point in time. So this is Jane Iredale Glow Time Pro BB Cream. This has SPF 25. It's supposed to be long wearing and transfer resistant. Now I remember thinking how yellow this was when I applied it, and I did a little research and it seems like the entire shade range is really yellow toned, which was something that kind of bothered me up front, but just from the get-go, upon application, after application, it was very much just okay. And then as the day went on, no matter how I applied it, what I applied it with, it just wore away for me in various areas on my face. With or without a primer, it didn't really matter, and that is not okay for a long wearing, transfer proof, transfer resistant foundation of this type. I was expecting so much more, especially as popular as this brand is. I wanted more. I didn't get it. I was really disappointed in this. I think I got this from Amazon and I was just so excited about it and so let down. When you get a little bit older, it gets harder to find the right foundation for your skin. Some changes start to happen. Concealers are also a struggle, and that is another product that I review regularly here on my channel. I have a few concealer fails that stood out to me more than others. I'm sure there are more that could have been in this video, but these are the ones that came to mind first. So this Maybelline Concealer, a lot of people were liking, and I had high hopes for it, but I'm realizing a lot of the people that were liking it were younger than me and don't have dry textured under eyes like I do. And surprisingly enough, I found that there wasn't quite enough coverage for me, and it was drying and emphasized my texture, which is a kind of a common theme that I find with many drugstore concealers. It's just a struggle. I'm not sure why there aren't enough hydrating ingredients, and if there are, it seems to thin out the coverage. It's kind of a common theme as I'm going through these fails, although there are some variations here and there. The next concealer fail is the Morphe Filter Effect Soft Radiance Concealer. I was intrigued by the name, Filter Effect Soft Radiance. It also had some pretty decent reviews at the time. I was shocked at how unflattering this was to my under eye area, truly shocked, especially given the name. There was no radiance. All it did was enhance everything I don't want enhanced. And the scent is so overwhelming. I remember it made my eyes water. This was a huge fail. I mean, I would actually like to know who can tolerate this scent on their face, because it also didn't go away after I applied it like a lot of products do. This was no good. Next is a very recent fail that must be downstairs because I just talked about this in a recent video, the Sephora Best Skin Ever Concealer, which I found to be very yellow toned, which is something I just personally don't prefer underneath my eyes. eyes. I find yellow does not give me the healthiest look on my under eye discoloration. It needs to be more neutral, pink or peach toned, which is how they described this concealer, but it was very yellow toned. I did not like that. And this was a very drying concealer. I did not like it at all, just very drying, unlike the foundation that I love. I was so excited to try it. It did not work for me. I believe I talked about this in my November favorites and fails, and I did make a note in that video that the UK version has a different formulation than the United States version. Their version is nice and hydrating. So if you're in the UK and want to try that version, it's completely different, and apparently it's really nice. But this one, it just did not work for my dry textured under eyes, and several people in the comments felt the same way I did, so at least I'm not alone. I feel like I've ranted a few times about this next concealer. This is the CoverGirl Simply Ageless Triple Action Concealer. I find this entire product to be so gimmicky and useless. This is probably my biggest concealer fail of the year. I think the applicator is so gimmicky. It's basically just a plastic wand. It's like applying concealer without the sponge tip. It just ends up rubbing the product around. The product is so sheer, it basically does nothing. The fact that this is in the Simply Ageless line is a joke to me because we need more coverage as we get older. Our skin gets thinner, and this offers non-adequate coverage in my opinion. Now keep in mind, I'm saying this as someone who had dark circles when I was younger, and they are getting darker the older I get. Now if you're someone who has moderate circles, you might be fine with this. I just don't understand this product. The wand, it's not cooling like they claim. It's pointless. The coverage is kind of a joke. It just makes no sense to me. I have a few CoverGirl favorites. I have favorites from all of these brands that I'm talking about, but these products, no. The next one is kind of a twofer. This is the Revlon Colorstay Skin Awaken Concealer and the corrector. I tried them both, and I just find that the concealer is kind of sheer and it dries kind of patchy because it's a little bit drying, and I have to layer it in order to get the adequate amount of coverage. It doesn't really layer well over itself, and the corrector is also just not very correcting. It's very thin. And I do believe I had said that would be fine if you don't have a lot of discoloration to correct. But then again, if you don't have a lot of discoloration to correct, why do you need a corrector? And I just found both to be kind of drying and unflattering overall. I have a few primers and powders to share that didn't work for me in 2022. I'm going to go ahead and get one out of the way that I talked about very recently in a favorites and fails video, the Huda Beauty Glowish Blur Jam or Jam Blur? Blur Jam Primer. It did basically nothing for me. I was excited about it because the reviews were really great, and I guess this is a case where either everyone loved it but me, or, well, I don't know what else it would be, but it had that kind of gel jam texture. It massaged into my skin like a lotion, kind of sunk in, but it really didn't do much for my pores, didn't really do much to help with shine or anything as far as holding my makeup on longer. I just saw no point to this primer whatsoever, and I'm just not really sure why the reviews were so great, and I had many of you comment the same thing. So again, at least I'm not alone, but that was a big waste of money for me. So that's kind of what this video is all about. Products that I wasted my money on, PR products that didn't work out for me. I would love to know though, if you tried any of the products that I am sharing in this video, how they worked out for you. Maybe you had a completely different experience than I did. Let me know down below. Maybe you love them. I want to know that too. Okay, so I have another primer, but this time an eye primer. This is the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Eye Primer. The face primer, the Hydro Grip face primer, went viral. There are dupes of it everywhere, and I remember when I tried this saying something about how I didn't really hear a lot about the eye primer version of it, which I thought was kind of odd because it's kind of like a spin-off, right? I was excited to try it, and it does not work at all for me. My eyeshadow always creases when I use it. So it does nothing basically to grip, which is in the name, whatsoever. I even tried setting it with a translucent powder, as I do quite often with my eyeshadow primers. As many of you know, as we get older, creasing becomes more of an issue, mascara smudging, because our eyes get a little bit more hooded, and setting our eyeshadow primer is a way to prevent that. Most eyeshadow primers that works. Nope, not this one. I set it with powder and my eyeshadow still creased. I just did not get along well with this eyeshadow primer at all. So maybe that's the reason why no one talks about it. I guess my question was in fact answered. Now we have the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Brightening Flawless Powder. Is that the name of this? Yes, Flawless Finish Complexion Perfecting Eye Plus Face Micro Powder. I'm sorry, I could not say that from memory. So how many of you bought this when it first launched? How many of you use it now? Let me know in the comments. I bought it because that's what I do. I buy things, I test them out, I give you my verdict, I let you know what I think. And this was a fail for me, even though the under eye concealing product it launched with was not. I liked that, but I found this to be, for me at least, kind of a pointless launch. We have her regular Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder, which I love. It sets under eyes beautifully, it melts into the skin and gives an airbrush finish. It's invisible. It's great if you have dryness or texture under your eyes. This enhanced dryness and texture. It was not flattering, which is pretty much what you're gonna hear me say for any under eye product that I don't like, basically. I mean, how many times did you hear me say that when I was talking about the under eye products earlier, the concealers? I just did not like this. I just pulled this out of the box. I had put this in the box to return it a long time ago and never did, because that's the way I roll. I always forget to return things, but then I guess I have it to reference later in a video when I'm talking to you. Another powder that didn't work for me that I really thought would is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Sheer Flattery Powder. This is a very finely milled sheer loose powder that has a little bit of a glow to it. Instead of being sheer and flattering and blurring the way it was supposed to, it seemed to adhere to any liquid or cream or makeup product that was on my face. Something in it made the powder do that. So it seemed to enhance texture or peach fuzz or just bad things I didn't want enhanced on my face. I tried playing with it in so many different ways, applying different amounts, applying it in different ways, and I just found it to be a very picky powder. It just did not work for me, and I really wanted it to, but it just didn't. I have sensitive skin, so I'm pretty picky about sunscreens. I typically stick with mineral sunscreens. Most chemical formulations make my skin react in some way. I was excited to try Supergoop Sheer Screen, but found it gave me such a horrible white cast. I was actually really surprised about this. I don't think anyone other than the fairest of fair would be able to use the sunscreen. I'm kind of surprised they launched it this way. I've had great luck with other Supergoop products, but not this one. Another sunscreen that I mentioned recently in another video that I was very disappointed by is from Coola. Their spray that looks like it's in an aerosol can, but it's actually a pump. That was the first thing I was really surprised by. The spray is terrible. It doesn't spray evenly at all. It's supposed to be non-greasy. It's very greasy. It's also supposed to be lightweight. I can feel it a lot. It's very heavy. It's the opposite of lightweight. It also broke me out. There was nothing good about this sunscreen at all. I was very disappointed. I've also had good luck with products from Coola, not this one. I have two bronzers in my worst of 2022 video. The first is from Physicians Formula, which is kind of a surprise because Physicians Formula makes a couple of my favorite bronzers. The Butter Bronzer, I have a couple of versions of it, which I really love. And their Glow Booster, I think it's called, in the brown packaging. I love that one too. I actually like it better than the Butter Bronzer, even though it's more under the radar. They came out with some collections this year. They had some blushes and bronzers and other products, and they had one that was Butter Coffee that I was kind of excited about until I tried it. It was so dusty. It was unreal. It went everywhere, it was patchy, and it was so much more fragranced than any of their other products. I love the smell of coffee. That's one of the reasons why I was excited about it, but I couldn't even take the fragrance of it. So I was really disappointed with that. My other is from LA Girl. It was their Sunset Glow Matte Bronzer. The size was great. There were 2 different shades, a light and a dark shade. I love that you could customize it. There was no kick up at all, which I was so excited about, but it ended up being one of the patchiest bronzers I've ever applied. I was stunned at how patchy this applied, especially with having no kick up. Unfortunately, the quality was just not there, which was such a disappointment because LA Girl has launched some good products this year and in the past, and I just thought this one was gonna be a great one, and it just missed the mark. One of my biggest disappointments this year in the eye category is the Cosis 10-Second Eye Gel. I received these in PR and loved the way they look in the tube. They had this metallic sheen to them that looked like it was going to be so flattering. The shades were beautiful, right up my alley. I love a good one and done eyeshadow. These look like they were going to be no fail products. Then I tried them. They applied to my lid just fine. And then I went to blend out the edges and everything seemed to just blend out to nothing. The sheen overall just kind of melted away. And then if I tried to add a little bit more to get that sheen back, to get a little bit more pigment, they started to feel kind of thick and crumbly and get kind of unflattering. I worked with them in many ways, and these just, again, to use the phrase, they missed the mark. Unless you like a very sheer wash of color that kind of blends away into nothing. I would guess there's a place for that. I just like something to have a little bit of oomph to it, and these just didn't have it. I have a lot of Buxom favorites. It's a great brand overall. I mean, I could say that about any brand in this video. Just because I'm hating on the products doesn't mean the brand is not good or that I don't have favorites from the same brands I'm talking about in this video. This Buxom Hot Toddy palette though, it was just a dusty mess. It launched somewhat recently, and I was kind of surprised at how much kick up there was. Not kind of surprised, I was pretty surprised at how much kick up there was. And you know, kick up is not a deal breaker. You often can just tap off your brush and blend things out on your eyes and go about your business. It's fine. But sometimes it just doesn't work. This is one of those times. The shades just all blended into one another. Overall, it was just disappointing. There also was just a lot of wasted space here. I feel like they're usually known for their lip products, but they've had some really nice eye products as well. This just didn't hit. Speaking of lip products, I have one lip product that stands out more than any other as being a fail in all of 2022, and that is the Patrick Ta Lip Plumping Gloss. I know some people love it, but I've tried a lot of lip plumping products, glosses, whatever they may be, so I have expectations. And when I tried this, it just wasn't what I was expecting. I'll say that. When I first pulled it out of the tube, I saw this gumminess to it, and I felt that gumminess on my lips. That's just the texture it has. I don't like that. And it is kind of sheer, which I don't mind if you're not expecting a lot of opacity, or if you don't want a lot of opacity, that's fine. The thing that got me the most about this is the smell and the taste. I equated it to Novocaine before. I couldn't think of what it reminded me of specifically. It was just gross. I just don't like the way they taste. I don't like the way they smell. It's almost kind of rancid to me. I don't think I've ever smelled or tasted anything like this in another gloss before. I have other plumping lip glosses that I love. I will link those down below if you want to know what those are. This was just no good. No good at all. Now, if you want to see makeup I loved so much I needed more of it, check out this video. I hope you found this helpful and enjoyable. If you did, give it a thumbs up and stay tuned for my next video, which is all about the best products I discovered from Amazon in 2022. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.